super optimistic, but let's move on. So we have to move on to this. So the fraud trial, I know we're a little bit late on covering. We covered it sort of before. So Judge Engoron came down, and he was actually pretty generous with the case. Now everybody's gonna say, "Oh, it was a lot of money," and blah blah blah, but it really wasn't. So Engoron tagged him for $355 million. Now you might sit there and think that's a lot of money. Letitia James asked for 370, but that's for three main cases that most of that money covered. So that's three different charges. So it wasn't the 355 million for one thing. It was 355 million for three instances. And the estimated profiting that he made on that was probably over $500 million. So 355 million isn't even clawing back all the money. It's clawing back maybe 60% of it, right? It's called disgorgement, right? I can't. Let's say I defraud a bank or I sell drugs. That would be an easy rule. So I'm selling drugs and I make $10 million. Well, the court says, well, you did that. It was illegal to sell. I sold the drugs illegally, right? To get that 10 million. But I didn't take it necessarily from any individual. So it's like, how do you distribute the money? It doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So what they say is, well, we already have.
Because it's not like you have any particular person to repay for your whatever damage you did, because that's not the kind of sort of financial crime it was.
Right. But then they figure, okay, but the states and the state, right, the feds already redistribute money from taxes and income, right? So what they say is, well, since it's ill-gotten gains, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the state, it belongs to the people. So it's called disgorgement. We're going to take it back from you, your ill-gotten gains, and claim it on behalf of the state, and then we'll just distribute it however, the people see fit or we vote to.
To discourage you from doing
that. There you go. But that's what it is. So the 355 million really wasn't that much, but he also has to pay interest. So it's actually, when the judgment came down, it was like 53 million and a half, something like that.
Can we just take a second and just breathe that one in? Because I'm thinking about, when I look at the interest that piles onto my student loan balance every month, how that kind of can take your breath away. Imagine the interest on a situation like that.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway. Pay the interest even.
Yep. So that's going to keep going and going. And I think the judgment just came down recently. It was either the 26th or the 7th or something like that. I can't remember what the actual date was. But so he's got basically 30 days to pay that, or put up a bond. Now, putting up a bond means somebody else is going to say, well, we'll pay it if he doesn't for whatever reason, and then they'll get some collateral or something for him as a collector. Right? It's essentially like if I owed 10 million and Lacey said, okay, I'll give Duncan a bond. Lacey's now responsible for paying that, but then I'm responsible for paying back Lacey. So that's essentially what a bond is. So the problem with that is he's got the other cases. He's got the E. Jean Carroll case, right, which was 83 million on top of the 450. Plus, with the interest is racking up on that one too. So we're looking at close to 600 million now that he owes in various cases. Well, the problem is the first E. Jean Carroll case, they tagged him with whatever it was, 5 million, 5.5 million. And he paid that, but he tried to get a bond. And no one would give him a bond for $5 million. So who's going to give him a bond for $450 or $80 million? If no one would give him one for 5. It's the old...
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like you walk into a bank and they won't give you a personal loan for $5,000 or issue you a credit card, but you think you're applying for a mortgage.
Right.
I feel like that's not what's happening.
Right. It's the old joke about the kid asks their dad, can I borrow $10? $5? I don't have $1 to give you. What are you talking about? I'm not going to give you a quarter. You're not even getting a nickel out of me. I mean, you can't get shit. So that's what's going on with that. But he also has problems. He can pay probably some of this out of the campaign money. We'll get into that a little bit. But here's what's happening with his ability to pay the money, right? Is he said he had 350 or 400 million in cash, which is probably bullshit because he lied about everything else. But he doesn't seem to have it. So we're going to... hang on one second. So right now, if he doesn't pay this to New York, Letitia James has already moved to seize his property. We're going to watch Fox News respond to this because they, of course, had the dumbest take possible.
So we're starting in South Carolina because they get the big primary on Saturday. And
we head there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
And Donald Trump was there last night with our own Laura Ingraham, and she was pressing him on what he's going to do in the new administration, but she wanted his reaction on the latest, on the massive price tag he's going to have to pay. This is what the former president had to say. Watch.
It
is a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. The guy's a nut job. I've known this for a long time, and I've said it openly. No jury, no anything. Letitia James.
It's just, I'm sorry. Okay, go.
I don't even know what he's saying. What's he saying?
Fines are communist and fascist. First off, in a communism, there wouldn't be any real money to speak of. You wouldn't get fined like that. It's only in a capitalism. Second off, in a fascism, normally don't they just seize your shit and hang you?
I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, I know this is a totally different segment we're on, but I'm feeling like this goes back to the, like, is the issue,
the dementia thing,
dementia or something, because the truth is, I was finding it pretty hard to follow his train of thought, even if he's doing it incorrect, because he's always gotten his facts all screwed up. But even if he's saying things like getting his facts screwed up, the sentences strung together in a way that was comprehensible, and the way he's stringing sentences together, I'm just having trouble following what he's even trying to say.
Well, I used to play this game, like, you know, you go to the bar or something with your friends, and it would be, you'd pull up a Trump quote or speech, and then at the same time you'd go to the text app on your phone, and you just type in one word, and then you just let it do the auto select. Right? You just select the next word.
For the rest of the sentence, you have to choose one of the three words to make the sentence.
So then you'd read the quote and then the auto text, and you'd be like, which one was Trump? And no one could tell the difference. I mean, he's always been a little off. Plus, I love Laura Ingraham. I think she's wearing a purse. She's got the weirdest dress here.
James is horrible attorney general in New York, campaigned on I will get Trump, I will get Trump. We went through a trial. It turned out we're totally innocent on everything. And he fined me $355 million plus interest on other things. If I didn't run, I wouldn't have any of these lawsuits. You know that. None of them. They would have gone on to the next. And look, Nikki has no chance, but if she ever did, they would go after her the same way. These are vicious people. These are vicious, sick people. They're sick. I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they...
Oh my God. Nobody's going after Nikki. She didn't do anything. I mean, she's literally like...
What? Like,
yeah, I mean,
there's nothing to go after her for.
Right. She hasn't committed any crimes, so nobody gives a shit. I mean, she's pretty much an inert character on that kind of front, but... My whole point with, I just was kind of to show you that, but rambling doesn't make any sense. I was innocent, but they fined me. That's not how that works. Right? So,
right.
Plus, it's the other thing is, courts don't find people innocent. It's too hard to prove. You're either guilty or not guilty. I mean, I can't. You know, but he's crazy. But let's watch Fox and Friends. And they're going to try to fucking spin this somehow. I don't know how these people work. I mean, they get paid millions of dollars a year and they make no fucking sense. It's insane. So we're going to go over to them real quick.
Makes the case that no matter if it's me or Nikki Haley, that they would be going after a Republican. And you just got to look at all these images of all these politicians as well as these celebrities that have photos with Donald Trump, the Trump brand. Everybody wanted to be in Trump Tower. wanted to be on The Celebrity Apprentice, wanted him at their wedding. They attended his wedding. But the moment he decided to get involved in politics is when you saw the criminal justice system change a little bit, the news anchors change a little bit, and he's saying, no matter if it's me or Nikki Haley, they're just going to go after a Republican.
Well, Nikki,
Well, that's bullshit too, because he's not wrong. Had he not run for president, he'd have probably gotten away with all this, because no one was really paying that much attention. And the law enforcement mechanism to enforce these kind of white collar crimes is pretty inept. I mean, there's no real money or budget for it. But he ran for president, and now all of a sudden the press is interested. And they're crawling through his books, and they're crawling through his business records, and they're crawling through his past. So basically, he put a big target on himself by running for president.
Right, because everyone wants information about him.
Right, because we want to know. Before, when he was just some slumlord in New York, nobody gave a shit.
Right, I mean, he was like mildly interesting because he did some like sort of TV stuff, and he was sort of a rich guy and whatever, and that makes people curious about him. But like, nobody was interested in him on the level that they're going to let go crawling through garbage to try to find shit on him. Like,
Right.
you know, he wasn't all that important to them.
No, but now that you're the most powerful man in the world, it's like, yeah, we want to know everything about you. You know, every little stupid thing you do could affect our lives. Yeah, we care. So yeah, we'll watch a little bit more of this because they're just so stupid. But yeah, he kind of brought it himself. But it's not that he's a Republican; it's that he's Donald Trump. That's what killed him.
Haley was top of mind because she had that big speech yesterday down at Clemson, I believe, in South Carolina. And her message was not what Donald Trump wanted to hear. She said she essentially is looking forward to competing in South Carolina, her home state, this weekend, but she's looking ahead towards Super Tuesday when 20 states vote. She said, I mean, this isn't Russia. We don't want someone to go in and just get 99% of the vote. She also said she would not kiss the ring of Donald Trump. So, you know, she's taking him full on. And this weekend, they're going to have a battle.
Yeah,
they're going to do battle.
The Real Clear Politics.
Well, she lost, but still, I mean, I also think this is the problem I have with the analysis is she would be kissing the ring if she thought she had a chance of getting a spot in his cabinet if he was president. But instead, she doesn't have a shot, and all the big donors came to her and said, we want you to go after Trump and siphon voters from him. And if you're getting millions and millions of dollars in donations, do you say, well, you know, I love Donald Trump. I'm not going to take these millions and millions of dollars and prop myself up. Because if he can't run, she's the only person standing.
Now, not only if he can't run is she the only person standing, but it also bodes well for her. Like, if we just kind of forget this election and look forward into the next one, it bodes really well for her because let's stop and think about this. Not only does she already have all the Republican vote that doesn't like him, she could potentially, as much as I'm not a fan of hers,
Right.
any moderates that are like, I'm more independent and like don't really consider themselves Republican or Democrat or whatever, like would maybe sway toward her because she also becomes the person who is willing to take on Trump.
Right.
And she's a safer Republican to get behind. I mean, so if she's looking past this election to the next one, like this only stacks as good things for her.
Right. There's
honestly.
Yeah, she'd be stupid to back out at this point. She's got nothing to lose and everything to gain by just riding the wave. So
These are all wins for her, even if they look like losses for this election. No, this is all a win for her.
yeah, absolutely. So we'll keep going here real quick.
Which is an average of all the polls, shows Trump at 61.8% in South Carolina and Nikki Haley at 36.5%. I thought something that was interesting last night, if you watched the town hall with Laura, Donald Trump was talking about how much he has to pay. It's basically $450 million when you include interest, which is an exorbitant amount. And he said, if you look at the 8th Amendment, this shouldn't be possible. He says, that says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed or cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Right. And then he said last night, and we've aired this clip a lot this morning, my revenge will be my success.
Well,
Okay, that's fucking stupid. So the 8th Amendment is cruel and unusual punishment. And I'm sorry, the fines, yeah, it's a big total, but he defrauded banks and taxes, the taxpayers, out of a lot more than that. So it's not an excessive fine.
Besides, cruel and unusual punishment is basically just saying for the kids at home that we no longer lop off your hand when you stole the apple because you were hungry. You know, like
Right.
we're not doing this like crazy nonsense to people, and that's all it is. Paying a
Well,
fine is
Yeah.
just paying a fine.
Well, it does say excessive fines, though, in the Eighth Amendment. Right. So it is kind of there is, but this is not excessive because it should have been a lot more. The judge could have gone a lot higher. So that's not going to float. Now, here's the deal. Does he have really a shot to appeal this? Right? Can you appeal on excessive fines? No, because what ended up happening was in Goron, I thought he would have gone higher, but he actually did something I thought was really smart. It was actually pretty generous. So in the trial, he let Trump, his attorneys, have all the witnesses they wanted. They let him talk as much as they wanted. He gave Trump the opportunity to talk, right? If that had been you or me or anybody else, the judge wouldn't have done that. He was incredibly, overly generous to Trump and Trump's attorneys during that entire trial. On top of that fact, at the end when he did the judgment, this is the reason it was a 90-something page judgment. I read it. It's funny. If you get a chance, it's basically mostly it's all the 40-something witnesses that testified, and it's really funny because it's basically obvious fucking lies. Like Alan Weisselberg, who was the CFO, not a finance guy, was not a CPA, had no degree in accounting. So the chief financial officer had no background in finance or accounting. And then he wasn't doing anything, and Don Jr. still thought he was the CFO 2 years after he was gone. So they didn't have anybody checking. And even then, Alan Weisselberg, what he was doing, he was just cooking the books. And they had 3 sets of books. Do you know that?
You have one set to show you,
Right.
and one set to show you. No, you only get this one.
Well, and all 3 of them were inaccurate. But it reminds me of that scene from The Producers when the cops go in there and arrest them, and the one cop saying, "Hey, Sarge, I found these 2 books here." "Oh, yeah? What do they say?" "Well, the first book says, show to the IRS. What does the second book say?" "Never show to the IRS." I mean, that's basically what it was. So what Goron did was he didn't tag him for the full money, and he didn't revoke his license. He suspended it for 3 years. Right? But, and this was where he was really generous. Instead of revoking his license and charging him the full fines, he said, "All right, I'm going to charge you a lesser amount than I could have, and I'm not going to revoke. I'm just going to suspend your license, but for the length of that suspension, you're on probation, so you have to have an independent inspector looking over your business the entire time and reporting to the court, and you have to have an independent compliance officer overlooking your business and reporting to the court to make sure everything you're doing is legal and above board." Now, it's brilliant because instead of slapping you with everything, I gave you probation, is basically what happened. So it makes it almost impossible to appeal. Right? On top of that fact, it's a genius move because Goron knows these people have never done business legally. They've always been committing fraud for decades. What are the odds they're going to all of a sudden do shit legally and do everything above board now? He's just going to get more reports and drag them back, and they're going to have to get dragged back in and get tagged more fines, and then eventually they're going to get revoked. And so he's basically got him by the balls. And he did it in a nice way, because all they have to do is not break the law for the next 3 years and pay the fine, and they're done. What do you think the odds are they're going to do that? So let's skip ahead, because what are the odds that they're
But
going to...
it's so simple a concept.
You would think so. but we're gonna skip them. So.